We have two words of the week this week. They're both related to speaking, and we're going to take them one at a time. So let's dive in with Mark chapter 9, verse 17. This is from the ESV with the Koine supplied. And someone from the crowd answered him, "Teacher, I brought my son to you, for he has a spirit that makes him mute." And the word mute here is alalon. And alalon comes from alalos, so alalon is in the accusative case, where alalos is in the nominative case, and it means mute or non-speaking. So alalos is an alpha privative adjective that comes from the verb laleo. And the verb laleo means I speak. There are two Greek verbs for speaking, basically. One is lego, I say, which has more to do with the content of the speech, and laleo, which has more to do with the physical act of speaking. So here, when we negate alalos, it becomes non-speaking, an inability to speak, being mute. Our other word of the week is similar but has a slightly different aspect to it. So let's take a look at Mark chapter 7, verse 32. And they brought to him a man who was deaf and had a speech impediment, mogelalon, and they begged him to lay his hands on him. So again, mogelalon comes from mogelalos, because mogelalon is in the accusative case, but the vocabulary form is usually in the nominative case, mogelalos. Mogelalos is hoarse or having a difficulty in speaking. It comes from an older word, mongelalos, which is also hoarse or having a difficulty in speaking. So if you notice, when you have the two gammas together, it forms the NG sound. So mogelalos is in Mark 7, but it comes from mongelalos with the two gammas rather than the one gamma. So I'm going to shift into super careful speaking, ironically because our words today are about speaking, so that YouTube does not take down this video. There is a certain genetic disorder, a chromosomal disorder, that typically includes a thickening of the tongue, and the original clinical name for that chromosomal disorder was rooted in the word mongelalos. You probably have figured out what I'm talking about. And the reason for it having that name was for the difficulty in speaking. So people who have that particular chromosomal disorder tend to have a speech impediment that comes from a thicker than average tongue. And over the course of time, that clinical term became seen as a pejorative and has sort of been banished from our vocabulary. But to be clear, this is only for the sake of discussing how Greek derivations affect English vocabulary. To be clear, the basis of that old clinical designation for that chromosomal disorder was not pejorative. It was describing the effect that it had on people's speech. It didn't make them mute. They could speak, but they spoke with a little additional difficulty that came from the thickening of the tongue. So what are our two words of the week? Alalos, that comes from laleo. Alalos is mute by virtue of not being able to speak. And then we have mogelalos or mongelalos, which is not an inability to speak, but a difficulty in speaking, either a hoarseness or some other impediment that made it challenging to speak and made the speech more difficult to understand. So, alalos and mogelalos or mongelalos are our two words of the week, muteness and or a difficulty in speaking. Hope that was interesting for you. Hope it was good, and that you'll like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And until next time, Charis Kai Irene Humin, grace and peace to you.